live. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the Eminem song "Business."
No.
It sort of starts off with Eminem like introducing a show, and it's like the host of our show. His name is Marshall. I think we could do the same, but have it go Spanish.
I'm down. Okay, we'll have to check that song out. I'm sure it's been a while since I've put together a parody, so we're probably due one, aren't we?
I don't think we'll be able to play it on a live stream because you'll probably get a copyright strike, but we could just play it for the live audience who are there.
Yeah, like we struggled with the other ones because it flags the tune.
Yeah, oh god, yeah. YouTube doesn't want content stealing, man.
Yeah, but it's covered under fair use. It's just that you never get the chance to really appeal it. But it is covered.
Yeah, it's until proven innocent. But if you send it to me, I can time shift it a little bit and send it back so it won't automatically get recognized.
Okay, I don't know what that means. Okay, so I think we're live on the live stream, guys.
Excellent.
Hello, Steve. Okay, so Steve, if you can hear me, you are the arbiter of whether Matt's in sync or not. If you tell him to kill it or to change anything, he will kill it. Matt, yeah?
Yeah, fine with me, but I don't see anybody in the chat room.
No, I don't either, so it is public, so...
Oh, what a lovely message you've put up for the...
Yeah, well, that's Steve. That's true, though. I can't see anyone in the chat room either.
No, me neither. That's weird.
I mean, I have...
Can you set to unlisted again or something?
No, it's on public. It is on public.
Oh,
there we go. So there's one. Let's smash some ass. Okay, that's not our normal sort of type of content that we get. And
you're on the wrong pod. You're looking at the wrong podcast, Chris.
Okay, so hi guys, we're here, and we are going to be getting going very soon. Okay, so
you lot are late.
What you want them to appear the instant we click go?
I want them to be there, ready and waiting, for itching. Like, oh, they're gonna start soon, and like
during they always just miss Spanners praising Ericsson. I mean, seriously,
like they have
on Steve,
and like nothing better to do
during the season. Yeah, but in the off season, I mean, it's 2 days till Christmas.
Is it? I honestly, I hate Christmas so much. I only just did my shopping today. It took me an hour.
So don't even try and act like you're so cool that you don't know it's Christmas in 2 days. You're not that
lose
cool.
track. I don't care.
He is trying to do that. That's what he's trying to do. You've called him.
He is. He's trying to be cool.
I'm working tomorrow, so
start calling him Danny Zuko.
Oh yes, I like that.
What's not family friendly? Someone said family friendly, but I don't know what we said that wasn't.
I think you may have said
my awesome goodness.
ASES.
Oh, okay. Well, that's. You're okay. That's
What's Christmas? There you go.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
Arse and bitchy. There's nothing wrong with either arse or bitchy.
Oh, dudes, don't. Not on the live stream.
I'm not.
Good job. It's nearly 2019 and it resets our flag.
Okay, so here's the time I had from 7:15 when I sat down in here to start doing my setup. Sorry, I was in here from 7, but from 7:15 I got a phone call that I needed to come in to sort the house out. My son had knocked over a full one of these, the fragrance oil things. So he's knocked it over and it's absorbed straight into wood floor. So, so you know these wick things, yeah?
Your floor is now potpourri.
Yeah, our floor is basically one of these wick things now, and there's nothing we can do. So it is going to smell like that over Christmas because that's just how that works. That's what they're for. And then my daughter found our Christmas stash, and and she admitted
which Christmas stash
with all the presents and everything. No, not the stash. No, and she knew that it was bad. So we after interrogation with a spot lamp, as my prep time was ticking by, we established that actually she had discovered it, realised what it was, then come out, then gone back in to have a peek around and a poke around. So she got told off for that. Whilst this was happening, my son got in the bath with the cat. So the cat had never been... The cat had never been in a bath before. The cat does not want to go in a bath again. But the thing is, the cat, they panic, don't they? So he comes out completely soaking wet, leaves an entire tray, and this is all well prep time. It's bleeding away. comes out the bathroom, leaves a trail of soggy cat all the way down the stairs and into the living room. So I'm chasing him with a towel, trying not to slip on the wooden floor stairs. And then, so when I eventually get him, I put him in the towel, and I'm there. So his head is just poking out the towel. I'm trying to dry him. He's really unimpressed. He's like, I'm helping you, damn it, cat, I'm helping you. And then, like, it was all right. I was like cleaning his paws and stuff, and he sort of got used to that. But then as I got down to like trying to clean his legs and around where his balls and stuff are, then he got really upset. Claws coming out, attacking my hand. Yeah, that's probably why he's even more upset. That's just adding insult to injury. You might have nicked my junk, but don't start faffing around down there.
The scarred location where his balls used to be.
Exactly.
No, I had the exact same situation. My cat used to like to walk around the edge of the bath.
Yeah.
And if there was bubbles in the bath, he'd swipe at the bubbles, and then he fell in. And we had that. I was in the bath. Lauren was asleep. Gizmo jumped in the bath, jumped out the bath, scratched the SHIT out of me, ran all the way across the lounge. I've yelled. Lauren's woken up trying to find the cat. I can't find the cat. Oh yeah, cats and water don't mix.
Who was
I was
good
a
cop
bit
and
more
who was bad cop?
concerned about your son, but the chat room has had a suggestion for spanners
What's that?
in the potpourri.
Oh, go on. You're darlicking a bit.
Kerosene.
Kerosene. Oh, to get it out.
Kerosene. Yeah.
Kerosene
And
as in fuel for heaters.
Yeah.
You want me to pour fuel for onto my? I don't like that.
And then
What
light
could
it,
possibly go
and then
wrong?
it'll burn off. Be fine.
Yeah, I think
Burn
we're
a lot
just.
of stuff. You can then have the argument with your wife about what will happen with the house set on fire and whose fault is this?
Yes, exactly. This is what I'm thinking.
Segway!
Yeah, you're acting like I've never set my house on fire before. Player, please. I can't. Don't you remember when I had to miss a show because during prep time we set the house on fire? The house is on... Matt, would you mind subbing in? The house is on fire. Yeah, sure, no problem. What? All right, cool. All right, enough of
It was
this.
funny. That whole thing about your house being set on fire got so glossed over in our group because it was like, what are we going to do about the show?
I know. So, well, as long as the content's sorted, that's fine. My house is on fire. Oh, I'll never forget that. My neighbour. So we sorted it out, obviously, and then a guy came around to sort out our electrics. Came from the electricity company. Was really cool. Like sorted stuff out he shouldn't have sorted out and stuff like that. When he went to leave, my neighbour had blocked him in because he'd parked in my neighbour's spot, and I knocked on the neighbour's door. I said, "Sorry about that." Like, he obviously didn't know it was your spot. And he went, but you knew it was my spot. You should have stopped him. I went, my house! I yelled at him. My house was on fire. I wasn't worrying about your parking spot. Anyway, we don't get on. Anyway.
Neighbours get really, really weird about parking spaces.
All right, if everyone could mute except Matt. And Matt, could you tell us an interesting yarn, maybe about your cat, so that you are the big face? Oh, I need your soundboard.
I'm happy to tell you many an interesting yarn about my cats, but I'm super excited because I finally managed to watch my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Yes.
9. Yes. Despite the presence of all the ladies in the house.
I honestly hate people who bang on about how it's not a Die Hard movie. It's like, stop trying, not a Christmas movie. Stop trying to be cool. Yeah. It's like the epitome of Christmas movies, and everyone can shut up, shut their faces. Anyway, you're the big face now. We could do the F1 thing. Although I do have a sudden urge to start a podcast where we just talk about how... Like, honestly, my house is terrible. We're not a good family unit. We don't seem to get anything right. We put our cats in the bath.
Yeah. Well, I like it. I was actually concerned for your son because, like, I've seen cats in baths before, and they have claws.
Kid's bulletproof, mate.
Like,
honestly, the kid's like Wolverine. You know, like you could like slice him in half and it would all like stitch back up. Right? He's like that. he's a weird little freak. And me and him actually are going to be sharing a go-kart track for the first time. Me and him on track in anger down at Formula Fast because they do little family sessions. So it's going to be him and his mate and me and his mate's dad all on track together. So it'll be quite cool. We're going to take some webcam footage as well. So not webcam. GoPro. We're going to take some GoPro so you can see Treeface in action. All right, let's do this. You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Spanners Ready, and I'm joined by Matt Two Rumpets. Thanks for joining me, Matt.
Well, of course. Why would I miss this, our pre-holiday show?
Oh, I like how we've put a spin on that. Yes, the season is finally over. The reviews are over. So now we can do our pre-Christmas show and we can explore some news that's come out in the post-season. And we can pass judgment on some drivers, you know, guys who've got more skill than we could accumulate in 1,000 lifetimes, but we will sit here and feel free to judge them.
Yes, we will appoint ourselves judge, jury, and a portioner
exactly.
of titles.
Yeah, well, this is sport, isn't it? And this is a sports show. We can absolutely judge and berate the star players, even though we have the utmost respect for their skills, except Stroll, who I could definitely beat at go-karting. 100% confident in that. Fight me. But first, let me tell you that we are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind permission of our better halves. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. And sometimes we're even wrong about being first. I'm also joined by rising star in motorsport, journalism, autosports, Chris Stevens. How's it going, Chris?
It's going great. Winding down through the year, desperately trying to think of content to write over the Christmas period.
Now, you famously didn't get your mum a birthday present last year. Have you done a bit better for Christmas?
No. Do you know, actually in my house, we've done a no Christmas present exchange rule because money's a bit tight. So we're just kind of getting presents for the rest of the family. Yeah, buzzkill, right?
That's definitely a trap. We're also joined by wannabe wheel turner Alex Jeansy Van Gene. How's it going, man?
Going really well. Looking forward to judging correctly or incorrectly random drivers from the grid. Should be fun.
Take it you've sorted your presents, though. You'd never leave it till the last minute.
I have a wife. Apart from her present, I haven't got to sort any other present. She does everything else.
I like your attitude.
It's great.
I like your attitude.
She's in charge. She does all that. And but the thing is, I am with Chris. We've done apart from the kids, no presents for the family. Just the kids get presents.
I like it.
So they're gonna have a great Christmas.
Let's explore some of the Formula One news that we've not had a chance to get to since the end of the season. Big Dirty News. Now, we're going to start with a personal passion of mine, Trumpets. Do you know what that is?
Oh, the gear ratios on superchargers?
Oh, don't get me started on the tale of the changing regulations of gear ratios, because I remember the glory days now. Oh, how foolish we all seem when they could nominate 8 gear ratios for the season.
Yes. No, I know that your real passion is batteries, but yet I don't see that at the top of our news list.
Oh, batteries. That'll never catch on. Let's just keep pumping dead dinosaur into race cars until it's too late. No one else seems to care, so why should we stop our sporting entertainment? No, Matt, my passion is, of course, tyres. Do you remember when... No, I'm joking. It's kind of boring, but it is super, super important. Do you remember the discussions we had when they brought in the third tyre selection? Do you remember that? There was just 2 choices throughout the weekend, and when they made it 3, we had real high hopes that that was going to increase the tactics and the strategy that the teams could use. On reflection, do you think that has panned out?
No. No, it has not. Mostly down to the fact that the compounds are not far enough apart in terms of usage and times to create the strategy, I don't know, I'm American, I suppose I could get away with that, that we expected might be the case. And that's also down very much to Pirelli, well, you know, having a commercial image they need to protect. That we saw tires blowing up, and, you know, Pirelli didn't like that very much. So they have been, I think the word is conservative in their choices, and that's led to really only 2 usable compounds for most races.
Absolutely. And I think if we go to Chris Stevens here, our resident newsman, Pirelli, it's worth repeating, do work to a set of requirements. Obviously, Pirelli could make super sticky tyres that give you grip, that give you speed, that last the entire length of a Grand Prix, I'm sure.
Yeah, Pirelli has only ever done what Formula One has asked it to and get nothing but slated for it. But at first, the strategic element was great with the 3 tire compounds back in 2016. It was great. You had so many different strategies. We got some really bizarre results out of it. I mean, remember Haas getting like P6 and P5 in their first 2 F1 races because they nailed the strategy on the head. Unfortunately, the 2017 regulations came at the wrong time, and Formula One thought, oh, they're going to have so much power and downforce. We need to make the tires much more durable because they're going to be slipping all the time.
And we'll come to next year's tyres in just a second. But, Jeansy, from a racing point of view, do you feel it kind of softens the racing impact when you know that one guy is on worn-out options and there's a guy on brand-new primes, and that's the reason they're being able to battle? Or do you just think that's a legitimate way to bring cars closer together and bring them together on track?
It's one of those things where it was brought in to try and spice up the racing because they want someone to catch someone who's on bad tires. From a pure racing perspective, overtaking somebody who's on slightly worn tires isn't as satisfying as overtaking somebody who's on the exact same tires. They've got the exact same life as you. It spices it up from an audience point of view. I think it probably frustrates the drivers that they just want to pound around. They would love 1 tire for the whole race that they can just push on for the entire time, or 2 tires for the whole race they can just push around on.
What about 2014 Bahrain, where you had Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton actually pretty free to do their own races because they were on different compounds. Then when they swapped tyres onto different compounds, they kind of went on each other's alternates, if you like, and then that came back together at the end. Is that a more satisfying kind of conclusion? Obviously, we can't recreate specific races.
It only came together again at the end because of the safety car. If it wasn't for the safety car, Lewis would have been far enough ahead that Nico wouldn't have been able to get close to him and they wouldn't have had that battle. Lewis was furious that he was on inferior tyres to Nico at that particular point in time because he has the disadvantage. He's got track position, but he had the big disadvantage, the fact that Nico had tyres that were half a second allowed quicker, and Nico still couldn't get the job done. That's a conversation for another day. But no, it's still a case of drivers would rather be fighting each other on the same tyres. It's great for the spectacle, for the guys watching the telly, for the guys in the stands. It looks fantastic. But for a racer, if you beat somebody who's on lesser tyres than you, and you've only beat him because he's on lesser tyres than you, not because the strategy's worked out that way, it is kind of a hollow victory. None of them will ever admit that, but it is.
All good points. Jeansy, just from a tech point of view, would you mind, that's down, that's cool. And then also the vibration between your mic and your computer, and also being loud when you unmute it. Also, you haven't headbutted the mic for a while, and that's kind of your thing, so, don't slack out on us. But thank you. All very, very good points on the racing. Chris Stevens, for 2019, do we have reason to be optimistic? For me, there's been one too many one-stoppers this season, and that's a weird thing to kind of say. Like, why am I even upset that there's one-stoppers? I can't quite put my finger on it.
Oh, well, it's because Pirelli have been, as Matt said, conservative when it comes to tyres. I mean, 2018, there was supposedly going to be pushing more for 2-stoppers, and that never ended up working out. And Pirelli has listened to the feedback from the teams and have done some things that are also going to help that, but they've also done some other things that are going to help push it towards 2-stoppers.
What are those things?
Well, those things, so remember the thinner treaded tyres that we controversially talked about that we saw in Barcelona, Paul Ricard and Silverstone?
Ah, the ones that suited Lewis Hamilton. Oh, I hope they don't bring those in. Are they going to bring those in?
That's going to be at every single race.
I have no strong opinions on that one way or the other.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the thinner tread is to help the Hypersoft tire not overheat as much, to make it not so much last a little bit longer, but to keep it in the right window for longer, and they actually can make it run a little bit longer, which is good in terms of racing, because the less overheating, it means you'll be able to follow cars a little bit more easily. So combine that with the new front wings, that should make overtaking a bit easier. But in terms of strategy, that's not really the kind of thing we want to be hearing. We want that qualifying tyre to fall apart basically after a handful of laps, perhaps, so that it's not an optimal tire for the race.
Yeah, but graining and blistering are not the same thing as the tire losing performance as it gets worn during a race. And the thinner tread specifically is there to help manage tread temperatures and heat transfer between the bulk of the tire and the tread of the tire. When they get out of balance, the tread gets too hot, you get blistering. The tread gets too cold, you get graining. And they've discovered that a slightly thinner, and we're only talking a couple of millimeters here. We're not talking a massive. It's not like back when they ditched the Kevlar sidewall tires to suit Red Bull, allegedly, when Vettel couldn't beat Weber to save his life because the tires wobbled so much it disrupted the air that was blocking off the rake of the Red Bull. But these tires should actually lead to racing where the degradation is mechanical in nature. And that theoretically will help the racing. We'll have less issues, less thermal issues with the tires being pushed because the heat can transfer more evenly between the bulk and the tread. Should be easier for teams to get them in the window and keep them in the window where they get optimal performance.
Okay, I'm nearly done with pretending that this is interesting to me, but I do have one more question. Jeansy, I'm not sure if you've raced in the kind of karting where tyre wear is an issue, but why don't you just explain to us sort of noobs, like, the difference between, say, a warm set of tyres where it's all gripping up and, you know, a cold, dead set of tyres. I'm sure you have more of an insight into what these guys have to deal with as the tyres wear gradually. Is it just a case of you have to wait a little bit longer, be a bit more patient when you've got less tyre grip before you get on the power, for example?
I think the best example I've got of this is, for myself personally, was at the 24-hour. You get 2 sets of tyres throughout the 24-hour race. And when you first go out on track, usually it's in Teesside. It's at Teesside in Middlesbrough. So it's always cold. And what you find is the first few laps before the tyres actually warm up, because it's lots of long straights, so you don't have a lot of time to warm up the tyres. You find you get a lot of understeer. So when you turn to the corner, you go to turn, there's no bite from the tyres, and the car just pushes on. And you don't get anywhere near the apex. And a couple of laps later, that warms up. Then what you have is, when you're 12 hours into the race, all of a sudden that understeer starts to creep back in, and you have to completely alter your driving style. Now, some people don't like understeer, some people do. Nico Rosberg talked a lot about the fact that he quite liked a car that was more leaning towards understeer than oversteer. And Lewis is completely the opposite. He likes to get the front, he likes to get the nose in. But so does Schumacher, so does Alonso, so does Kimi Raikkonen, so does Vettel. They like the nose to go in. And it's quite telling with the guys who are some of the quickest out there. They like the nose to get to the apex first. Jenson Button, he liked an understeery car. That's why it differed during McLaren between him and Lewis, because they both like the car set up differently. I think that's why Kimi and Vettel have worked quite well together, because they like a similar style of car.
So is this why, when all the new tyre life has gone, you often hear Lewis Hamilton going, "Oh man, these tyres are gone," because he wants it gripping and pointing in. So some of the guys, maybe like Bottas, he seems to really struggle at the beginning of the race compared to everybody else, and his pace comes in a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean, you even experience it when you drive all sorts of different sims, for example. When you go out on a fresh set of tyres, everything's a lot more sensitive. I can't say it to a car because I haven't done it in a car, but everything's a lot more sensitive. So you turn that much, half a centimetre, and it goes. When they're a little bit worn, you turn half a centimetre and it just goes straight. It's that whole little thing of feel. And the best drivers are the ones that figure that out the quickest, which is the same when it comes to wet weather racing as well. Mm-hmm. They feel the grip. They know where the grip is, and they can change their driving style around it. And then you get guys who just crash off at the home race.
Well, that was genuinely informative. I actually feel like I've learned something. This is weird. Okay, look, let's go to the chat room. There are people who watch us record this live, and they give us comments to talk about. And sometimes they make really good points. And Chris, I think Erudite 450, I believe that is a solvent for metals and plastics, says the difficulty in following other cars is part of the reason why teams avoid multiple stops. Singapore, for instance, should have been a multiple stop race, but teams prioritised track position. So, for example, in Singapore and Monaco, the difference between the tyres would have had to have been several seconds before teams took that risk.
Yes, that's exactly the comment I was going to bring up. I think with the changes made for 2019, we've also got the medium and the hard tyre that's going to be a softer compound compared to last year for that strategic variability. That should push them into making the one stop just won't work. You'll lose too much time with the wear compared to people who can throw on a fresh set and close that gap. We haven't seen that working as much in the past, but with more wear, that could be something that happens. That's what they're aiming at anyway.
Variability. Are we just George Bushing this and making up words, Chris? Variability is not a word. Surely Trump is.
Yes, it is.
It is not a word.
Good.
Unless you spell it that way.
I've got questions for you, though, Trumpets. Last thing on tyres, and presumably you're going to then extend that into several other points. We are used to this. And then Chris is also gesturing that he has another point. It looks like we're stuck talking tyres for a while. Okay, I'll ask this question, then I'm going to drink some gin. Matt, what on earth do we call these tyres next season? I'm so lost. Is it just going to be compound 1, 2, and 3 or something like that?
Well, I think it was going to be that, but last I heard, they're actually going to use the HTML5 identification for colors, so each one will be FFMM056PG.
Good.
And then EEOOF65PPGY, and then, well, you get the idea.
No, we just call them soft, medium, hard. The teams, so that they know specifically what they're working with, will say that's compound 1, that's compound 2. So compound 1 is the hardest, compound 5 is the softest. But for us simpletons watching the races, just call them soft, medium, and hard.
What about the colours?
The colours will be the same. It will be white, yellow, and red.
So we only ever have to remember 3 colours and soft, medium, and hard. We never have to... that is actually... common sense. I like that.
Yes.
So we don't have to think about this. Only the teams have to worry about it. And if you want to be super nerdy, you can then dig deep and find out, oh, look, they've selected tyres which are harder than I would have gone for. It's quite conservative. So that's the little tidbit we can get is, it's a bit conservative this week, but it's still soft, medium, and hard during the race.
Yeah. So one more point I have about tyres, actually, we won't see what used to be the super soft tyre, or what might have been compound 4. That's been completely removed because it was considered too close to the ultra soft. What worries me about that is that maybe there isn't going to be as much of a gap between, say, the qualifying tyre and the second one down. So say the soft tyre and the medium. For the sake of this, we'll call it the soft and the medium, because you want that big gap to be there, because at the moment the top teams are able to get through Q2 on the middle tire, on the medium tire, and then start on that compound and have a better strategy, which just puts the top midfielders at a massive disadvantage. That's something I want to see removed.
To be fair, as a viewer, I don't want to hear them talking about, oh, well, this is the ultra soft tire from last year. I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear, this is the soft tyre, this is the medium tyre, this is the hard tyre. I don't want to hear about what that tyre once was. I think it makes it even more complicated. I think it needs to be this simple, straightforward system as the 3 tyre compounds as they've got for every single race. If they want to change the compounds and it's last year's ultra soft, so be it. Don't tell us it's even more complicated, and don't tell us it's the makeup that made Ferrari fast in this race or Mercedes fast in this race. I don't want to hear it. I just think it just confuses the matter, and also gives everyone excuses of why their team didn't do so well.
Yeah, and Matt's going to drone on about it anyway, so we don't need it on the broadcast. Everyone should listen to Missed Apex. Matt, we just about ready to move on to the next item?
Yeah, I was just going to wrap it up by saying the following very trenchant thing, which is that, first of all, pit stops take too long. Problem number 1. Second of all, in a series that's dedicated to saving fuel and blowing up as few engines as possible, using your tires to create strategic variability is always going to trend towards a one stop, because then you can safely manage those other parameters as well. And this is the real issue. Like, I don't think you can blame Pirelli too much, because essentially the entire series right now is geared towards the kind of driving that's not going to see you bailing out, strapping on your fastest tires, and running your engine at maximum volume to the end of the race, because you need that engine to last for so long.
Okay, I'm sure that was interesting. I'm going to be honest, I zoned out. But we do have another item. Big Dirty News. It wasn't that your point about tyres was boring, Trumpets. It's that I can only listen to you and concentrate for 60 seconds at a time, which is great for the race in 60 seconds. It's almost perfect. And that's how I can tell when you've gone over the time limit, because you just go, your voice just turns into just a sort of American drone. However, there is more news. We have something manufacturers, new entrants, something fascinating. Tell us all about it.
Existing manufacturers are going to have to share information with new entrants, which is huge for Formula One.
How much,
really.
And how can they enforce that?
Well, okay, so here is the quote from Ross Brawn. Components and technology will have to be shared if requested. So basically a new entrant, say, there's always been all this talk about Porsche or Cosworth or Aston Martin coming in and building an engine for Formula One. If they can go up to Mercedes and say, we want to know how you do this, and Mercedes have to give them that information. Although, let's be honest, since it became quite clear that the 2021 engine regulations are going to be more of a tweak of the existing ones rather than an overhaul, that lot have kind of turned their back on Formula One. But anyone who does decide to come in, they get the benefit of this. It's a way to try and entice them again. That way we don't get an example like Honda, where they come in a year behind development and spend years trying to catch up.
Oh, GT, I'm sure if the Japanese manufacturers knock on the door of Mercedes, come in, come and see how we do everything. In an era where we know full well that the works engines are performing better than the customer engines, do we believe this? What are we going to do? Are we going to make them pinky swear? Toto, do you pinky swear that you told them everything about how to build an engine? Because I didn't see those elastic bands on your latest upgrade. However, this new Porsche car looks distinct. The hamster's not even alive anymore.
First of all, have Ferrari used their veto on that yet? Yeah, we ain't doing that, because I can very much see Ferrari doing that. And as you just said, Spanners, how can they guarantee the quality of the information they pass on? There is no way that whoever has the best engine at that point, whoever we decide has the best engine these days, is going to go, yeah, here's all of our secrets. Here's how to make your new thing go fast, and spend all of our research money, because the millions and millions of pounds that Ferrari and Mercedes have spent to make their engines as good as they are. Yeah, here you go, Audi, our biggest competitor on the road. Here you go, Toyota. No, not going to. I can't see anyone allowing that to happen.
Here you go, Volkswagen. Oh, look, you've got soot all over the blueprints already. Oh, you guys are a nightmare. Trumpets.
You got your efficiencies wrong as well.
That was the joke that I was. If you look just over your head, you'll see the joke there, Jeansy. Trumpets, is this going to work? What practical effect is it going to have?
Well, assuming that it even is eventually an actual rule, I expect that, first of all, the teams will mostly loophole their way around anything that might actually be terribly, terribly useful for the competitors. And I could only see it working in the broadest of senses, in the sense that conceptually it might help a new manufacturer narrow down what they need to focus on, and a modestly successful design that might be competitive. But by the same token, we have 10 teams and 4 engine manufacturers right now in the sport. So I tend to be on board with the basic economics of having 3 more engine suppliers really start to make zero sense unless other people bail.
Stevens, the chat room, who you can join, by the way, dear listener, by going to YouTube and searching Missed Apex Podcast. And you'll get the video in the top half and the chat room in the bottom half. And Othniel Gallimore has used this facility to tell you are wrong. Stevens, that rule was not agreed. It has only been discussed.
I mean, apparently it's penciled into the sporting regulations.
Apparently. So, there you go. Highbrow journalism Apparently, it's been crayoned in to the back of a fag packet in Chris's shed. Trumpets.
The chat room is being very helpful with examples of the kinds of information that might be shared. Evangelos goes, Ferrari sharing data about their car. Quote, it will be red.
Ooh, which kind of red?
Exactly. And Dan DeHines, Toto says, quote, we use cylindrical forms where we explode a liquid which makes the car go forward. So, yes, I think we can look forward to lots of that sort of information being shared between the engineers.
All right, then, Chris Stevens, why not just a step towards customer cars? Why not just make it more spec'd? Why dance this strange corporate dance that no one will listen to anyway?
Well, customer cars is a great idea. Yeah, let's do it. Works in so many other series.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I agree. There's certainly, you could bring it in a lot more, couldn't you? You could make more of it spec. It's quite unspec, even though it's more spec than it used to be. It's still not spec enough to allow a 4-second difference on the grid. We could bring that down.
100%. I mean, when there's 1.5 seconds between the top guys and the midfield, there is just more to be done.
Usman Salim says, didn't Ferrari share data with McLaren back in 2007? No, I don't recall. I don't recall anything like that. That is a strong contender for comment of the week. Jeansy? Okay, this is the bit where words come out. You can do it.
You told me I can pause when all of a sudden I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, but first you went and then you like cracked your knuckles really near the mic, which.
Well, do you know what it was? When I had my finger in the air, my finger wasn't actually in the air. But anyway, whatever. No, it's gone.
Don't worry about it. It's absolutely.
I'll come back. It'll be back. It'll come back in a minute.
More big dirty news. I think this is more of a stat. Did you put this, Chris, in? Did you put this in, Chris? That the biggest race of the year was Silverstone.
Yeah, the most attended one. Yeah, with 140,500 on race day, which is nearly 8% up on what happened last year overall across the season. I just wanted to bring this up because Silverstone is the one that might have its last race next year, and it's actually the most popular venue. I just wanted to kind of stick a little bit.
I think it's so popular that we could run that Grand Prix 3 times a year and it would be filled up every year. You might have to reduce the prices a little bit, but the willing is there. This is such a huge fan base for motorsport in this country, and we only have our one Grand Prix, and we sure as heck pile into that venue. It is shuffle room only around Silverstone.
Definitely. It's very crowded out there. I mean, it's such a shame it's in the position that it's in, and Sadiq Khan has said that a London race could happen. I don't want it to. I just think it's such a bad idea because they're even scouting out locations in Greater London at the moment.
It's a shame as well because Silverstone, yeah, history, blah, 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 traditions. I don't really care about that. Monaco's got traditions. I'd lose that in a heartbeat tomorrow. But it's a good racing circuit. It's on a nice flat bit of land, which isn't showing off with any undulation like Spa and Nürburgring, which no one likes going up and down. It's not a roller coaster ride. It's a racetrack. That was just to piss off one individual. Oh, that was just to annoy one individual in particular. However, the thought that we could lose Silverstone and it be replaced by yet another presumably terrible street circuit is heartbreaking, Chris.
Yeah, it really is. And actually, Othniel in the chat room says Silverstone or nowhere, which is unfortunately the position that we kind of have to look at, because for me, it can only be at Silverstone. I mean, even when they were on about moving it to Donington a few years ago, I thought that was an awful idea. Now,
that's not the first time that Donington has tried to be the British Grand Prix. There was a disastrous attempt several years ago to make it a Formula One track, and they ended up bankrupting themselves and nearly stopped racing there altogether. And in fact, during the off-season, we're going to be speaking to Lee Coombs, who ran the campaign of Lotus enthusiasts to get a big mob of people to march down and persuade Donington to keep racing. It's quite a nice story, actually. So we're going to speak to Lee later on in the off-season. What are the chances of all this? Because I actually thought that this year was going to be the last Silverstone. We're being told that next year is potentially the last year. What's their relationship with Liberty? are we actually going to lose the British Grand Prix? Because I know that when we lost the British E-Prix, I just felt like that had been ripped away from me. And if we lose the British Grand Prix as well for F1, it's just going to hurt.
Yeah, it will be a massive sting. And it's a very real probability, unfortunately. You know, Silverstone, the BRDC, the owners of Silverstone, the British Racing Drivers Club, rightly so, is unhappy with the outrageous fees that it's been paying, and that amount increasing year on year on year. And it can't get, if it rises, 5% every year, they can't get 5% more people through the door. They can't just up the ticket prices by 5% every year. And so they're just making a loss every single time that they host the Grand Prix. So rightly so, they've tried to make a statement and say, look, we're going to use the break clause. So 2019, we need to make a new agreement. And so far, all that's been done is to look for other locations. There doesn't seem to be a lot of talk about actually settling things with Silverstone, only to find somewhere else to host it, which is worrying, really worrying.
Right. So first of all, I feel compelled to point out that they signed that contract knowing full well those risers were in there. If they had a problem with it, they should have negotiated that at the start of the contract. And as far as all of the stories about other locations, well, I don't know. If you were Liberty and you were on the other side of that negotiation, what would you want in the news right now? Oh, yeah, exactly that. Other locations. This is just part of the negotiating process between the two entities. Liberty, this will be their first major issue they deal with. The last thing they want to do is cut Silverstone a sweetheart deal, because then every other operator will be after them. And let's remember, they're investing a fair amount of money into the sport right now. And they're not really going to be at a place where they can afford to cut lots of tracks, lots of deals.
Oh, listen to this, American. Jeansy, you tell him Britain can tell other countries what we want and what we demand, and we can have our cake and eat it, apparently. Hopefully. We've got 2 months to find out.
Liberty should buy Rockingham. Rockingham's now gone under. It's going to be turned into a car auction site. Liberty should buy Rockingham and do whatever they want with Rockingham. They've got a great place there for building a race circuit. And if they can't have it, So Silverstone is one of the best circuits in the world. You can pick that piece of tarmac up and plonk it anywhere, and it will generate you amazing racing. Whether as good fans will come, I don't know. I still very much believe the British fans are the best. Biased I may be, but whatever.
All British fans, Jeansy? What about the Scottish fans? Because if we go to Rockingham, it's very near to Corby. And if you ever drive into Corby, the first thing you'll notice is that, rather jarringly, everyone has a Scottish accent. So that's what we're going to have. We're going to have haggis stands where they kill the haggis live. It's very easy to kill a haggis because two legs are shorter than the others on one side than they are on the other. So.
Well, the funniest thing about you say about that is the only time I've been to Rockingham was to watch my mate Michael Weddell race in the Scottish Mini League. So that's the only correlation I've ever had with Rockingham.
Okay, but we're not allowed to talk about Weddell here because he wiped me out in the Missed Apex iRacing event. Stevens?
Sorry, it's gone. Jeansy went on too long.
Yeah, that happens. That's bad. All right. No worries about it. No
I
worries.
blame mine on drinking. What are you blaming yours on?
This is as long as you improve by the time we. So hang on, I'm going to put this on. Chris chokes. That's what I'm going to put in my, edit notes.
I've got it.
Okay, good.
The only issue with Rockingham is that it looks like Tempelhof Airport in that it just looks like a giant fascist architecture because it's so grey and slumly, and it's really...
you can't say slum. You cannot say slum. Didn't you watch Sports Personality of the Year? You will be hounded in the press for weeks now. How dare you call a quite bad place a slum? It's
just a really ugly place to be. It's so horrible.
And hello to all our fans and listeners in Corby. Trumpet, save us.
Technically, that style of architecture is called brutalist, if what you're describing is an accurate rendition of what the track looks like, just to help you out a little bit there.
Let's move on. Wow, that last segment wasn't very good. Let's hope this is slightly better. Oh no, my hopes are immediately dashed because Matt Trumpets was allowed to name the segment. And after the magnificent board of awesomeness, where we broke down the team performances, we now apparently, for the drivers, have the colossally magnificent argumentation section podium. Matt, you've ruined it again.
Well, that wasn't actually the title. I was just going to call it the Driver Awards, but okay. I like yours better.
Okay, let's do that. All right, I just read the notes. You know I've got like a Ron Burgundy thing going on. I will just read whatever is in the show notes. But basically, we're going to go and pick a driver to talk about. We're going to nominate a number of awards that we might wish to give him and decide which one is most apt.
Yeah, basically, because we don't believe in participation awards here at Missed Apex, but we do have a number of potential awards each driver is eligible for. So I thought it would be fun for us to nominate a couple of awards we thought each driver deserved, argue about which one was the best award to give the driver, and then give you free choice to pick any of the ones you heard or make up your own and substitute it if you like that better. And yeah, it's entirely possible. I've noticed that letting you do that sort of thing means my content gets on the show.
Fine, although this is definitely the wrong way around. Normally you would have a number of people up for a certain award, not a person being up for a number of awards.
Well, since when have we ever done anything like anybody else?
It's true. Check out some other... I was going to name a load of terrible F1 podcasts, but you know who they are. Who are we going to start with? Should we start with Sergei Sorokin? Do you want to start with a potential award for Sergei?
I do. I figured we'd do them in reverse championship order to make it fun. And Sorokin was at the bottom of the table, so he is therefore immediately eligible for the What's the Point award, as he scored exactly one single solitary point all year long. 10th in Monza, a race that featured 3 retirements and a disqualification, along with a notable lack of turns for his Williams. By way of comparison, our next person up for awards, Brendan Hartley, scored 4 times as many points.
Wow, so every driver scored a point this season. I didn't realise Sorokin was actually last. So we're giving Stroll... was there any kind of overriding reason for why he couldn't defeat the mighty Lance Stroll?
Money.
Oh, right, okay. Money. That spells money for those hard of spelling. Could it be, Chris Stevens, that the Stroll family has done what they have been reported to do in all Lance's driving, which is favour, Lance Stroll? They've used their influence to make sure that Stroll gets a bit of a leg up.
I mean, potentially. I think the team's focus is going to be more on fixing the absolute dog of a car. And
I don't think the car's bad. I don't think the car's that bad.
Okay, fine. We'll find out next year. But
okay, hang on. All right, let's set some parameters. All right, because the car was fine with Bottas and Maldonado. It was okay. It was doing things, wasn't it? And then with Bottas and Stroll, Bottas got some results, but Stroll didn't really. And then with Stroll and a driver not as good as Bottas, the team suddenly has no points as well. If George Russell goes in there and starts bagging top sixes, are we finally going to admit that really the car wasn't the major problem? The major problem was having 2 pay drivers.
What you're missing out there is the fact that between Bottas coming and going was the massive regulation changes that happened that Williams absolutely flopped on and couldn't get with it at all. I mean, yeah, Felipe Massa struggled to get some good results in 2017 with that car.
Hang on a minute. Wait. Felipe Massa didn't win the World Championship in the best car in living history, the 2008 Ferrari. And Jeansy, you agree with me, that has to be the best car ever to get Massa to 2nd place in a championship.
Yes, I agree, Spanners.
There we go. So look, we're not using Massa as any kind of thing. I mean, where did he finish in the first Formula E race? 27th?
Yeah, that wasn't his fault. Go and listen to E-Radio, by the way, to find out why that happened.
I was on that despite knowing nothing about the race or recognising any of the cars. Jeansy?
As far as I'm concerned, I mean, I can't say much about Sergei. Bless him. Hardly saw him all season. He got beaten by Stroll. Doesn't say much. But next year, is Williams' massive litmus test. They have two known quality drivers. If that car can produce good results next year, it shows, as Spanner said, it does show that car was capable, and they picked money over class.
Chris, do you agree with those parameters? If they suddenly get an uptick next season, are you going to accept we've had a point, or are you going to have to invent oh no, that's because they changed the front jackman, which gave them vital seconds?
I'm not disagreeing with you about the fact that Stroll and Sorokin is in no way an ideal pairing for them. They're not getting the most out of the car, and they're not developing the car properly. But I'm also saying the car is woeful as well. And there seems to be some sort of lingering theory here that actually it's capable of finishing P5 in the championship, which it just simply will not be. They'll have learned from the mistakes that they made with this year's car. Hopefully have a better start to next year with two drivers that are properly able to get the most and extract the most out of it, especially seeing as they've had Kubica on the development for quite a while on it now.
Trumpets.
Yeah, well, the reason we can't compare next year's car is because the regulations are changing yet again to simplify the front wing, to lower the rear wing. So we're not going to have an essential evolution of this year's car to use as any sort of point of comparison. So I think
convenient.
It will be a test of the Williams overall engineering team. Like, can they figure out what went wrong, and can they sort it out for next year? But I don't think it will give us the kind of comparison that you would really like in terms of a more apples to apples comparison.
I'm just going to go for the Occam's razor, simplest solution. If Williams miraculously improve next year, Jeansy, I'm just going to say that I was right all along and frustrate everyone.
Ray Thompson makes a really good point. They have a Mercedes engine in that car. They have a working relationship with Mercedes. They can't be at the back of the grid. They can't complain about the car, really. Okay, they might have got the aero concept a bit wrong, but that's all fixable within the course of a season, especially with the amount of money that they had. Yeah, it's a travesty, and the drivers will change it.
Yeah, but Matt.
Yeah.
Mercedes engine. And as Bradley Philpott pointed out last week, I think, the fact that Stroll is able to make up so many positions at the start of the race just shows you he's underqualifying it, and then in the race, the car settles into a more natural position.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Des also makes the very excellent logical point that if we're going to go with that reasoning that if McLaren get better, then Alonso would have been terrible by comparison.
I like that theory, Matt. But, I mean, Jeansy, I don't understand how you can just use the Mercedes engine as an excuse, because it just isn't. I mean, if anything, that highlights how rubbish the car is. And if you're going to say that because they had a Mercedes engine, they must be at the front bit and they have a load of money and the aero concept is a bit wrong, which is the understatement of the year. One word for you: McLaren.
Yeah, all right.
But they shouldn't be behind McLaren. They shouldn't be behind, because McLaren in all sorts of different disarray at the moment. That's the thing.
So is Williams.
McLaren constantly change their concept. That's McLaren's biggest problem. They've gone through a massive management change. I'm not quite certain Zach Brown knows what he's doing, and the team doesn't seem to have any direction at the moment. They've been obsessed with McLaren the last 3 years is appeasing Fernando Alonso. And I think they've lost sight of what they want to achieve because they are just trying to make Fernando happy, which is the wrong thing to do because, oh yeah, look, he's gone now. Bye, Fernando. And McLaren are still in the proverbial bottom end.
Right.
Williams have got a lot of support. Williams should be higher. And I think the thing that has been holding them back is their drivers. The car's probably not fantastic, but you need decent drivers to help elevate that car, to help develop the car and bring it forward and get the setup right. Forget aero, forget anything they got to change on the car. Just getting the setup right. There are seconds to be found in a setup, just if someone knows what they're doing. But if you've got two drivers that have paid to be there, like Sorokin, like Stroll, who've just had everything done for them in the past, it's not going to work.
I feel a bet coming on, Chris. I feel a bet coming on. Go on, you make your point, and then we'll make a little bet.
The reason we've been hearing in so much detail about McLaren's rows is because Fernando Alonso is racing for them. No one cares about whether, why Stroll and Sorokin are at the back. People care why Fernando Alonso isn't winning world championships anymore. But it's just as much a disarray, as you said, going on at Williams.
In McLaren's history, the worst thing to ever happen to McLaren is Fernando Alonso. The first time he was there and the second time was there, he takes their eye off the ball because he's a crybaby who wants all the attention.
Get off the fence, Van Gene. Good job we're getting to Alonso in a little while. I think we're going to have to move on, but not before we say to Chris, I think that Williams are going to jump to 6th in the Constructors' Championship by mid-season, and that George Russell will be leading the way, absolutely smashing it, with Robert Kubica doing an adequate and brave job behind George.
They may well do, but it's going to have nothing to do with what's
It's going to be a massive coincidence, and that all those things are going to just, like, you're going to have a graph with no Stroll, no Stroll again, right? And then you're going to have high performance, really rubbish performance, high performance. They're going to exactly match those two graphs, and you're going to come up with a bunch of reasoning around it.
Right, but that's like a detective coming into the room and seeing somebody who discovered the body and just blaming the guy who found the body, because there are so many other changes happening between now and when we start racing again that are going to affect everything, not just Williams, but the rest of the grid.
Okay, put it this way then. Would Williams be improving for next season if Sorokin and Stroll remained? You would
They could do. The opportunity is there for them.
All right, let's move on, drivers. Lance Stroll trumpets. What awards is he up for?
I'm happy to move on, drivers. You realize we only got to one for Sorokin, so we'll give him that one.
Was all that just for one? Sorry, right. So Sorokin wins the What's the Point award. Do you want to quickly go through the other three, just so that we don't waste those magnificent points you made?
The ominous foreshadowing award for being forced to retire in Australia for his sandwich bag being sucked into his brake duct.
Oh, yeah.
Which turned out. You can't fire me because I quit award, because after they announced Kubica, his sponsor said, well, we were going to quit Williams anyway because they're terrible and they would be an awful investment for next year. And my personal favorite, the Mr. Cellophane Award. That's right. The song from Chicago whose lyrics start, because you can look right through me, walk right by me, and never know I'm there. And let's face it, given the fact that news stories from the beginning of the season were up on his page when I looked at it, doing research, that's pretty much what happened. Yeah,
very much the point that Jeansy echoed there, that he has been somewhat anonymous this season. I still think we should give him the What's the Point award, because 1 point, very, very bottom of the F1 grid. Let's move over to Lance Stroll. So we give Lance Stroll a lot of grief. However, I said when it was apparent that he was going over to what was Force India, that it is a great family achievement for them. And as a family, they've earned what they're doing. They've put themselves in that position. Papa Stroll is a self-made man. And if I was in his position, my son would 100% be a Formula One driver. And if I could, I would buy him his own team and championships and all the rest of it, and enjoy the spoils of war, as it were. So I'm going to nominate him for the Family Award for a great family achievement. Presumably, we're now just going to slate him for another 5 minutes.
Yes, and I believe Hartley actually should have been next if we were going in strict championship order, but since the rules are variable, we'll just go with Stroll since he's a Williams.
Yeah, I cut and pasted it because we were talking about Stroll.
Yeah, that works for me. So his first award kind of goes along with the family award, which is the You Got Me a What for My Birthday award. And yeah, that's right. His dad bought him an entire Formula One team for his birthday. What did you get me?
Jeansy, no, you're not a massive fan of Stroll, but given they are in that position and that they have bought him an F1 team, I think it's appropriate at this point that we play this.
Daddy, I want
F1 team.
and I want it now.
That nearly worked.
That's exactly what I was going to say, which is that's what this award should be called, which is it should be the Pony Award. Because it is. It's I want a pony. That's what it should be, because he got his pony. Oh God, do I have to talk about Stroll again?
Thing is, I'm just wondering whether it is Lance that's pushing this, because he seemed partway through the season like he wasn't interested at all. Like, if you saw his body language in the middle of the season, in the paddock, in the interviews, you wondered whether he wasn't just being dragged along by Papa Stroll.
It shows how powerful nepotism is, because Papa Stroll is a very, very, very intelligent man who's made billions and billions of dollars through incredibly astute business deals. And then he puts his son, who is incredibly below par, in his own F1 team. Seriously, Lawrence, think about your actions, man, and stick a decent driver in there, because you can afford a decent driver now.
He's up against
whatever bad award you want to give to Stroll, I'm happy with.
Well, he's up against Perez next season. We know about Perez. We know who he is, what he can do. What is the minimum you would expect from him? In fact, let's put it this way. What result could he get against Perez in the championship next season that would make Alex Jeansy Van Jeansy go, do you know what? Yeah, he's come good.
If he can out-qualify Perez at least 5 times and get close to him in the points, it's so hard to say be within this many points of him, because we don't know how good Racing Point are going to be next year. Racing Point could be right on the back of Red Bull for all we know next year, so I don't know.
I don't doubt it. I would not be surprised. Actually, Trumpets, let's go on to that.
Throw at it. They are the most efficient team on the grid. With the small amount of funds that they've got, they produce a fantastic racing car. They had no money and the car plateaued, and then all of a sudden the Stroll consortium came in, and boom, they had good results. That's what it's all there for. Yeah.
See, them going to administration this year meant they missed out on 2 pretty major upgrades for this season. So throw that onto the 2019 car already. But I don't think you're going to see the effect of Stroll's money until late 2019, early 2020, because obviously all the work for 2019 has already happened and was going on before Stroll came in. So that's already been sort of done and settled. So the effect will be in sort of this time next year.
No, I don't agree with that. I bet you that the extra money and resources that they have now, and Otto Ottmar Schaffnauer, help me, someone help.
Ottmar Schaffnauer.
Nah, that doesn't sound right. But anyway,
that's exactly how he said it on one of the podcasts I was listening to.
That guy who's in charge of Force Racing Stroll now, he said, we have to think carefully about how we're going to spend this extra money, and they don't want to kind of get spoiled and get out of their ethos. That means more money is available now. That means more people. That means more resources. That means moving towards more of a Mercedes thing where you can go down the wrong paths and throw money at it. Big upgrades come in Barcelona. I think after Barcelona, you're going to see a big effect. Trumpets. What do you reckon? I think Stroll is a big winner out of this season because he's done enough to prove to his dad that he can stay in F1. And that's all he needed to do. He's upgraded to a better team. They seem determined to throw funds at it. I think Racing Point Stroll, after Barcelona, towards the mid-season, is, as Jeansy said, they could be sniffing around the back of, if not Red Bull, Haas, Renault.
Yeah, well, Renault would be their immediate and obvious comparison point because Renault, too, is spending more money. They picked up a really first-rate driver in Ricciardo. Not that Sainz was bad by any comparison, but I think we could agree that Ricciardo is on a slightly different level. And Haas doesn't have the money, although they've got a new sponsor. I don't know exactly how much money is going to be committed. But if you look at who had the fastest car this year, it was definitely, of the midfield, Haas had the fastest car, even if they didn't get the best results, because I think organizationally, Force India were superior to them. So they made fewer operating errors, which cost them fewer points. So it's really going to be fascinating. But I'm glad you brought this up, because this brings us to the second award that Stroll is eligible for, and that's the Gamer of the Year award. And our man Ottmar said in an interview that he was super happy to have Stroll on board because Stroll was every bit as fast in the simulator as Ocon.
There was
no word to whether or not.
God, sorry, mate. Has anyone seen the episode of Futurama with the brain slugs that stick to the side of everybody's head and control what they say. Like, it's just, Claire Williams there. Stroll is genuinely here on pace. We're very excited to see what Lance can do. And then it's fallen off, and they brought it with them across to the Force India factory. And there they're going, oh, no, Stroll is as fast as Ocon in the simulator. It's like somebody ripped that brain slug off him. Jeansy.
What you got to remember with regards to Sims is the likes of Stroll, the likes of Ocon, the likes of Max, the likes of any of the new guys coming in now. They come from the simulation generation. They're all going to be very, very good on a sim. But when you get into a real world and you have G-forces and you have things to think about during a race and you have to press different buttons on your steering wheel, it makes a massive difference. So I'm not surprised if he is quick on the sim. I bet he is. But whether that translates to the track, I don't know.
Do you want the best example of that is me in Spanish? Because I was so much quicker than you in the sim, and I can't do it in a go-kart.
And that's why you're too scared to race in the map iRacing, and you just do the commentary.
Oh, yeah, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I am in a hovel right now.
So basically, Chris Stevens is Stroll. So he changed his nickname from Sparkles to Stroll.
Please don't. That will suggest that I have money, and I really don't. I have nothing.
Trumpets, that's
No,
two.
it would suggest you're a poor driver. That's what it suggests.
Trumpets, that's 2 awards down. You got me what for my birthday award and Gamer of the Year award. We also have the Family Award. Any others?
Someone has happily chucked it in. Would you like to take it, Stevens?
Yes, I would like to nominate him for the Admission Award, which is Paddy Lowe finally admitting that Lance Stroll came into F1 too early.
As in ever. I want to reiterate that I would definitely beat Lance Stroll in a go-kart. So, and I'm not even good. I'm not even good. I just fight me. I think I would. I think I would definitely beat Lance Stroll at Daytona Milton Keynes.
No, because Daddy would pay for him to have a better kart than you.
Would he pay for someone to block me or into the famous turn 10 hairpin? Chris? Oh, I thought you were waving at me. Okay, it's okay. That happens sometimes. All right. Which award do you want to give it, Matt?
This is your choice.
Oh, really? I'm in charge again. And how did that work out on the magnificent board of awesomeness?
I think it worked out pretty well.
I'm going to give him the Gamer of the Year award for being so good at a computer game that the team principal came out on telly and decided to tell everybody about it. That's how desperate they are to push Lance Stroll as being actually good and not just a money nepotism choice, which he definitely is. So that's the one, Gamer of the Year award. We've got time for one more, I think. Shall we go to Brendan Hartley, Matt?
Indeed. And we're going to start him out with one of my favorite awards, the Golden Years Award, because he had 7 retirements in 21 races.
Wow, 7 retirements. How many of those were his fault and how many were just dumb luck?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably go with about the 30-70 ratio. He had, if you Google his name, which actually brings us handily to the next award, the Guinea Pig Award. If you Google his name, you pretty much see his name plus penalty and or starting at the back of the grid. So I'm going to go with a large portion of those. We're probably down to Honda's experiments.
See, Trump, I'm going to go to Jeansy because I think, Jeansy, have you not shared a track with Hartley in a karting championship?
He came to BRKC in Cambridgeshire, and yeah, he didn't do well. I don't. He was like 6th or 7th that day.
All right,
but I get you can't. It does him a disservice talking about his day on that particular.
Well, all I meant is that you've seen him before. That was it.
He's a perfectly well-rounded driver. I think he's too old to have all of a sudden gone from doing what he's been doing to jump into an F1 car. I think he's a good enough driver. He's fine. He's nothing special, and most of the time he got either punted off by his teammate or punted into a wall by a Canadian at the Canadian Grand Prix, or the Honda died. And he's just been megally unlucky. He did really well to talk himself into the drive in the first place.
Right.
So we've had a nomination from the floor, as it were. The chat room would like to nominate him for the Karun Chandok Award for being really likable, but a bit rubbish.
Oh, right. Hang on. No, wait. I'm going to fight Brendan's corner here. not Karun. I can't remember that far back. By the way, Karun Chanduk is moving to Sky as well, which I think is good news because we'll see him for some live races and stuff. I like Karun. But anyway, I was going to give Brendan Hartley the Cool Runnings Award because, as Matt pointed out, he's changed disciplines and he's changed disciplines late, but he's still used his core skills. So he's come from a completely different kind of racing to compete at what is considered by many to be the pinnacle of motorsport. And he's gone, from LMP1. Was he in LMP1 before? And then into open wheel racing at its very fastest and hardest. And he didn't win. He didn't win out, but he earned our respect, I think. And hopefully, just like in Cool Runnings, he also learned that friendship and teamwork was the real prize all along, Chris.
This is why I nominated him for the Hard Done By award, because it wasn't a Brad year for him, as we proved in our first season review episode. But despite that, he had about 10 to 15 drivers linked to his seat for most of the season, which
can't help. That can't help, can it? That can't be good for morale. I think from coming from a completely different discipline into F1, and he hasn't looked out of place. Would you agree with that, Jeansy? He hasn't looked like not an F1 driver. He just hasn't, smashed Gasly, who is fancied for the Red Bull seat and who a lot of people are looking forward to seeing up against Max Verstappen. Brendan Hartley can walk out of this sport with his head held absolutely high.
He's been very close to Gasly. I think he's done well against a very highly rated new coming driver. For everything that you just said with regards to where he's come from, and I think the Hard Done By award is the perfect award to give him. I feel bad for Brendan because he's a nice lad, as you say, a likeable bloke. A little bit of an anecdote about Karun Chandok to give you an idea about Karun. I raced with him at a race at Daytona Milton Keynes. We're on the start line waiting to get going. We're stood there and I'm having a chat with him, and he asked me for ways round the circuit. Says a lot about Karun Chandok.
He obviously didn't know you. Were you just a random bystander?
I started ahead and I never saw him again. So
are you sure that you weren't just staring at him going, blimey, it's that Karun what's it off of the telly? And he's like, why is this?
Me and him on Facebook. He's lovely. He's until I met Daniel Ricciardo, he was the nicest man in Formula One.
It's all an act, Daniel Ricciardo, Chris. He comes across all nice. Under the surface, Daniel Ricciardo is definitely evil, and if he gets the funds, will become a super evil genius in a volcano. I've called it first. Remember where you heard it when the lava starts flowing, Chris?
Well, he was perfectly fine when I spoke to him.
Well, that's how he wants to come across. But wait till you're strapped to a table with a laser going from your feet all the way up to your crotch. Then you'll be saying, why didn't I listen to Spanners? Where can people find you on social media, Chris Stevens, and find your work and stuff?
You can find me on Twitter at cstevens_journo, and all of my written work, my podcast appearances, my radio appearances, everything that has my name on it can be found at my own website, ejournoonline.com.
And which award do you want to give to Hartley? The Golden Years for the retirement, Guinea Pig, Hard Done By, or Cool Runnings?
I want to give him my one, the Hard Done By one.
Boo. Trumpets. Where can people catch up with you online? You're normally selling some shifty, borderline immoral goods.
Yes, I try to shift as many of my wife's novels as I possibly can. And it's a good time since they're available as ebooks. Everybody, not too late to get that last thing for the other person in your life or people. I don't know. I make no judgments about that. She's at A Weaver Writes, Amanda Weaver. Look for her in Amazon. And as for me, I'm at MattPT55 on the Twitters. Come say hi and tell me I'm wrong about all the things, just like Spanners.
You'll give Hartley my Cool Runnings award, won't you? That's the coolest one.
No, of course not. I'm going to give him the Guinea Pig Award because he deserves it. I mean, you talk about somebody who was just literally used up and chucked out by a team for experiments. And I think that's pretty much, I think it's along the same lines as your Cool Running. No, it's not. It's different, but it's more along the lines of Steven's Hard Done By now that I think about it.
Ooh, interesting. Jeansy, does your wife do anything more than make you homemade Baileys? Is she also secretly an author of smut?
No, she works in a children's school.
That's nearly the opposite of what Matt's wife does.
By the way, it means I get the deciding vote. If you've all decided on 3 different awards,
Yeah,
it
we
means
have,
I get the
yeah.
deciding vote, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I give it Chris's award, the
What?
hard done by award. Definitely.
Don't side
Definitely,
with
definitely.
Stevens.
Race to the Racer is a hard done by award.
And where can people follow you online? Because I know that next season you are pushing a competitor series to what we're trying to put together on the Missed Apex calendar. Actually, I should talk about that as well. But you have been involved with Covcart.
Yeah, so you can find me at Alex Mangine on pretty much everything. And yes, Covcart starts at Daytona in Tamworth on the 12th of January. It's an afternoon race, actually, on the Saturday, funnily enough. We normally do our races on a Sunday, but we're mixing things up a little bit this year. It's a rental car championship. You turn up and you drive. Each round is between 55 and 70 quid. You get 3 races. Every single race adds up to your total for the end of the season. So it's the best of 30 races over the season. You get to drop 6 rounds. Really nice, competitive series with levels all the way up and down with decent levels all the way up and down the grid. Really, really good value for money. Really good friendly environment.
Okay, where would I come on that grid, having seen me go around? And I was slightly better than that wet race you last saw me in at Milton Keynes.
What, where I came behind you and pushed you around for 2 laps and then you spun?
They were my fastest laps.
How much do you weigh?
80 kilograms in kit.
Oh, okay, fine. So you'd be in the heavyweights. So you'd be
Really?
rear quarter.
80 kilograms is the heavyweights.
Yeah, 80 kilos is where the heavyweight starts.
Oh, best get the running
so
gear on.
to be fair, we've got a couple of listeners that race with us: Ryan Sedgwick, Paddy, Stephen Williams, all race with us. Stephen's become a really good driver. To be fair, he's come from his first race. He won't mind me saying this, from right near the back and getting really a bit worried by everybody going through him at the first race, to battling with me and Chris Daines for the lead of a race at Buckmore Park. So you learn really quickly there. So if you're looking to sort of get up the ladder and learn really quickly, it's a really great series.
I beat both Paddy and Stephen Williams at the last Missed Apex event, and
Well, there
Chris
you go.
Turner as well. So I must be awesome. I couldn't beat Jack Nichols, though, who, despite weighing about 1,000 pounds, not because he's fat, just because he's a gigantic human being, like he's a truly massive man, yet somehow he was able to fling that go-kart around right up at the top of the pack, and I was chasing him down. Even though he was in a battle, I couldn't catch up with him. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Spanners Ready and the show at Missed Apex F1 on Twitter. You can DM me on Twitter on both those accounts, although you might get one of the randoms, like Nick or Alex or Matt, if you do the Missed Apex account. So best just DM the Spanners one. You can also friend me on Facebook, Spanners Ready, on there as well. I will tease the events we have coming up in the new year because I have some details now. We are looking at I don't know. Actually, I'll wait till we get it booked because there's some history of other organisations trying to gazump us. Look for a Q2, a Q2 karting event for Missed Apex. That will be our banner spring event. We are also going to look to do something in late February that you should be able to get involved in as well. But it won't be a karting event, but we should be recording something. Trumpets. There's time for one final award. Are you aware of what that award is?
Yes.
Why don't you sing it, and then we'll see if you can sing it better than my wife.
I can't.
Give it a go, though. Go on.
Comment of the week. Yeah.
Comment of the week.
It was a fair effort. We should hook up a duo version of Trumpets and Mrs. Spanners doing that. But thank you very much to the chat room. It's been a really busy chat room considering that the season has been over for about 7 years now, and they're still here hanging out with us. We'll be with you all throughout the off-season. Matt, which one of these fine comments is worthy of comment of the week? Do you mind if I restrict you to 3 nominations? You genuinely read out 17 last week.
Well, I'm helped by having read some of them on the air already. Ooh.
Are you not prepared? You're not prepared,
No.
are you?
Now, I was prepared to do it my way. You have changed the rules, so now I have to think for a
Just
second.
do slightly less than normal. I think that that's rubbish. That's not what's happening at all. What's happening is that he's made his internet words too small, and because he's really old, he's having to lean in past his mic to try and see the letters. Do you know you can make your internet bigger if you like press control and then scroll your mouse up?
No, you asked for 3, and I have more than 3, so I have to narrow them down.
Oh my God, in the time this took, you could have read 17.
Which was my original plan, but you decided that was not acceptable.
I prefer when he talks about tyres.
God, no. I gave him 20 minutes. That is it for the rest of the off-season.
All right, so here we go. I will go with Paul Wright. F1 teams should do diffusers regarding your pre-show disaster.
Right, okay. So I guess for the people who don't tune in to the beginning of the live show, how dare you? Yeah, there was a disaster. My son knocked over one of these oil fragrance things. You know, the things that you put the little sticks in to make your room smell good? Well, he knocked over a whole bottle of that, and that has absorbed into the wood flooring in the living room. So the wood flooring is essentially now the wick for Christmassy orange oil, and that is what the house is going to smell of until 2019.
I'm going to go with Usman Salim, which you read on air. Didn't Ferrari share data to McLaren back in 2007?
Allegedly, I think we still have to say, or something. I can hear the sound of shredders and fax machines going off in the back of the shed.
And at the risk of having the entire thing bleeped and having to pick a different one, I'm going to go with Ray Thompson's nickname for Lance Stroll, and that would be Lance Lucky Sperm Club Stroll.
Yep, you're going to have to use your imagination through that beep, that very long beep. Let's give it to the second one. Could you read Usman's again?
I can indeed read it. It's going to be, didn't Ferrari share data to McLaren back in 2007?
Comment of the week.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. We'll be with you all throughout the off-season. We're going to do regular shows on a Sunday. The Christmas period, the way it's worked out, we don't really have to skip a beat. Consider supporting us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/missedapex. You will get ad-free feeds. You will get the extra waffle content when we post it. And you'll get things like when our celebrity stars drop into the Slack group and hang out, which was loads and loads of fun. So thank you very much to my panelists, Matt Trumpets, Alex Jeansy Van Gene, and Autosports Chris Stevens. Until next time, guys, remember that wounds heal, chicks dig scars, and glory lasts forever. This is Missed Apex. Yay, we did the podcast. Well done, podcast friends. High fives over Skype.
For the record, so Chris is now Chris Rainbow Stroll Stevens.
Yeah, I think that is how
That's
the nickname...
now the nickname that has to stick.
Nicknames are terrible, though, aren't they? You can't get stuck with a bad nickname or it just follows you around
Like
forever.
Spanners.
That is, as far as anyone knows, that is my
You're
real...
a spanner. Being called a tool is a really bad thing.
In Ireland... Yeah, in Ireland, being called a spanner is really, really bad. And when I turned out to a karting event and I had spanners written on the back of my bib, these two Irish lads were just laughing their bottoms off because they were going, yeah, you know, I'm not going to do an Irish accent, but they said in an Irish accent that it made them laugh. That story petered out, but they laughed about it anyway. But even my mum calls me spanners now because she listens to my radio show and is like just gets used to it, and she always messages me, "Well done, spanners, hooray!" So,
My radio alter ego. Nobody knows my true identity.
Exactly.
Like
Oh my God, I'm like Batman.
I prefer adding a P to your name, to be honest, if I'm brutally honest.
I didn't realise how much like Batman I was. Thanks for pointing that out. I just need
Without
to...
the money,
the Cape
the good
Crusade on
looks,
the radio.
the ability to fight, the muscle mass, the height.
There's muscle under there somewhere. Honestly, I swear.
No, there is a difference. No. There's one thing you and Batman have in common. You're not wearing hockey pants.
My mother's name, I'll have you know, is Martha.
No.
Nah, it genuinely isn't. But
Please
wouldn't
tell
that
me
have
that's
been...
a joke.
Yeah, it is a
Can't
joke,
be-
but yeah. It was a very funny joke.
Martha! You killed Martha!
Stupidest scene in movie history.
Am I the only person? I know that was...
DC is so far behind Marvel, it's ridiculous.
I'm not even going to bother trying to explain to you why it's not as dumb as people think it is.
No, it's super dumb. Right,
It
so
is super dumb.
So when that scene happened, when they did they got on because of the... I didn't watch the rest. I didn't watch the rest of the movie, and I haven't watched any other DC film since then. That's how
All they
bad
need to
that
do is
was.
put him in a boxing ring and it's Adrian.
Yeah, but I stopped. I looked at my wife and I just went, no, and I stopped it, and she didn't argue. She was just like, yeah, no, that's fair enough. And then, actually, that's
Superman
a lie.
died not long-
That
not-
is a
not
lie
long after.
because of Wonder Woman.
Spoiler alert.
Gold got.
Like the thing is, the most like kick-ass part of the movie happens after that. So, jokes on you.
Kick-Ass. That's a movie.
Yeah,
That's
and
No,
a
it's
serious
not.
film.
Oh my god, it's awful.
Incredible. They were brilliant.
you don't
so
like
bad.
Kick-Ass. What is wrong with you?
So
He
bad.
doesn't like Kick-Ass. Brad doesn't like Guardians or
No, that's
Deadpool.
weird. That is weird. He doesn't
Wait,
like
he
them.
doesn't like
he
Deadpool.
doesn't think
I-
Deadpool's
I-
funny.
He turned Deadpool off after 12 minutes, apparently.
Who doesn't like Deadpool?
Deadpool is awesome.
Yeah, no,
The
but
only people who
Not a
don't like
musical.
Deadpool
He doesn't
are
like
people who
things
have
that aren't
issues with
musical.
like gore and stuff. But
It's politically incorrect.
they
probably
maybe
hurt animals in it or something.
So,
did they make a
don't.
vegan joke?
I don't. I've just had flashbacks to the vegan burger I had when I went to the restaurant.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
While me and Brad went for a burger on Friday.
Right.
And you were telling me about your burger issues.
I just didn't want them to think I was a bad person by eating a dead animal in front of them when they're so
I can't
passionate
eat that
about.
stuff in front of him on purpose.
Yeah, but they're my new friends. I didn't want to lose them
He's my
already.
old friend. I can do what I want.
So I was like, yeah. Next time I'll definitely just like give me just meat, like the whole thing. Can you make it in the shape of the animal it was before as well? And that'd be good.
If Brad's fiance wants to make you meat, don't let her. We went there once for a roast dinner. She very kindly invited us around for
That's
a roast.
really
Yeah,
kind.
I can say this because she's never going to listen to this. And we'll never hear any of the backlash. And I've said it to her face, so it's fine. She really, really nicely invited us around for a roast, a Sunday roast, and she did chicken breasts. And let's put it this way: Lauren had to help her and had to finish it all.
No, but if she's not a
Yeah,
meat eater, that I think that's fair enough. But I tell you what, here's some examples.
It was very nice of her to do it.
Some
That's the whole
examples
thing.
of
They're both too nice. in certain
some
situations.
examples of the reach that we are starting to get at Missed Apex. Mrs. Philpott told me a story that Brad on the live stream was saying he had to go because he had to go and pick up Wagamamas, and somebody who knows his missus through her friend ended up like watching the live stream because they're a Missed Apex watcher, and then messaged back saying oh, I hear you're having Wagamamas. And she's like, what? How did you know that? So yeah, it's quite good that this sort of public life has seemed and gone all the way around. And I got recognised in an iRacing race by someone I was having a battle with, and afterwards they were like, "Are you that there Spanners?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, woohoo!" People starting to.
How have you got your name as that on iRacing? Because I thought the whole point with iRacing, you have to have your actual name.
It is my actual name. My name is Richard Reddy, and that is
It's
my
not,
iRacing name. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's
I
not,
have
though.
no. What you're on
Your
about?
surname is something I can't pronounce.
Look,
So
it
I
was.
can't even land you in if I want to.
Yeah, I know, but that's why I don't use my real name. It's not like a
Your
protection
surname's
thing.
more difficult to pronounce than mine.
No, but it's just pointless. There's just no point in
Sorry.
doing it. Your name is
And-
what?
And
What
Matt's
is
surname
difficult
isn't
about-
Trumpets.
No, Matt's surname is Trumpets.
It's not ironic.
No, it is that Matt. You legally had it changed to Trumpets. It's $40. Go get it changed, isn't it?
Absolutely. I actually genuinely don't know
So,
Matt's surname.
but-
It's
yeah,
hilarious.
by the way,
That's it.
the answer
Wow,
to
you're
your
a bad friend.
It's just never come up. We've always talked about it.
there he is. There's the person who knew me from iRacing, Charles Ford. Hello. That's brilliant. There we go.
Oh,
Hey,
by the way, after talking about Michael Weddle, I told Weddle what you said on a text message, and Weddle said he's going to punt you off even harder at the next iRacing event.
he can't.
was-
You're now. The unfortunate thing for you is you are now in Weddle's sights.
Wait a minute.
The,
Firstly, it is very unlikely that I will again be on the same piece of track as Weddle unless he's lapping me.
Oh, he'll find you. He has a habit of doing that.
Secondly, right,
My best ever moment on a racetrack with Michael Weddle was at Hereford. We were doing a fun endurance race.
Good
the
little
night-
track, that.
The,
Yeah.
the day before the BRKC event, and we went under the bridge, which was the left-hand corner. I can't actually remember how we went into the corner. Whatever happened, we both spun. We both hit each other. It was raining. Both hit each other. Both spun. Both were facing each other on the track, and were dancing on the track, doing sort of this movement with your arms, as cars were coming towards us. It was one of the funniest moments I've ever had on a racetrack. It's hilarious.
What's Stephen's real name?
Stroll.
You'll never find out.
Sparkles. We don't call you Sparkles anymore.
Do you know how I know the end of civilization is nigh?
Is it because the
Brexit.
moon was really big last night?
Nope. It's because Steve was happy with the entire show.
Yeah,
What?
our video guy.
Wow.
He
That's
sent
it.
he sent me a happy
Right, we can cut
message.
now.
He sent me a happy message, and I'm like, the hell, Steve's been hacked. Like,
Right.
what? How can I? I'm not gonna.
Something's not wrong.
It's like I'm not
Surely
gonna.
That means this is the last show ever because it's never going to get as good as that. So we may as well just retire now.
Oh, did you make it about Weddle being Scottish? Oh, you get.
No,
not
I
'cause
didn't
he's
make it about him being Scottish. We were talking about Scots.
Oh,
I
right.
never get. Well, remember, however much I love Michael Weddle, I never give him praise for anything ever.
No, I
But
think
he's
that's
like
right.
he's like my little brother.
Can I just say that you said that he was gonna punt me even harder? He broke my car, and I couldn't even drive it back to the pits, and I had to go.
If
to the
you don't
pits.
think punting is even harder, you don't know Michael Weddle.
Yeah, but that's the most amount of damage you can do if I have to stop.
From my point of view in my life, he invented the term dive bomb. That's where that comes from as far as I'm concerned.
The important
'Cause
thing
that's
to
what
remember
Michael
about
always
Michael
used to shout.
Weddle is if he's winning, he's British, and if he's not, he's Scottish.
No, he's
That's
always
the
Scottish.
rule.
He's
No,
the-
no.
To be fair, he's the fakest Scot I've ever met in my entire life. He's not a Scottish person in real life, apart from he wears shorts all the time. He's not a real Scot.
So Spanners as an iRacing target painted on my back. I have been like taken out where it's not my fault. Like
You
lot
might
of
as
the
well
time.
draw your livery on your car. Might as well just be a big
Well, this
target.
thing-
Put Mr. Apex in it and do a big target on your car.
Wait,
That should
I'm
be your
gonna
livery.
put a target on the back of my car if I possibly can. But as Brad was like saying that the setup I have to use, actually when I'm playing on this studio computer, it's really good.
Setup shocking.
Oh, I know.
no,
I
no.
couldn't believe it when I saw it. But he was actually racing with. It's so awful.
Yeah, but that is
What's
not
hilarious is he sits really close to the steering wheel, like you see an old lady when you're driving down the road. Like,
Yeah.
okay. But that is not what I race with when I'm just hanging out like I did the other day because a kind patron Sam has sent me a Oculus DK2, which I am now using with iRacing on the studio computer, which has got a graphics card. and
so
everything.
wasted on you.
No, it's really cool. Honestly, I've
And then
done
I'll
three-
get sick racing. I'm going to get myself a PC eventually, and I want VR. But what I
Yeah.
realised after going to a VR centre last week that I get motion sickness.
Yeah,
with
no, I
VR.
saw- no, but-
So I now have to. I'm now considering what medication I have to go and get to stop motion sickness, so that I can eventually do VR when I get a pod.
Jeansy,
Get that,
that
wristband.
That's commitment.
Jeansy, I felt sick when I did the first couple of practice sessions. Then I stole someone's graphics settings, inserted it straight into iRacing, and suddenly I didn't feel sick anymore, and it was great. But I've got a first and a second out of my first 3 races using the VR, just because the awareness is so much better.
And people on the track.
Huh? Second, no, but like honestly, like you don't like you look at a car and you go, oh, actually, he's got his nose a lot further than I thought because I'm able to actually look over my shoulder, and you can plan the whole corner. Like, you,
It's
it's just
don't
incredible.
doubt the immersion is incredible.
It's
I
incredible.
don't-
Like, you
I've
just-
got,
you can look
I've got
down
2
there.
mates who use VR. Actually, they race with you, Danny and Chris. They both use VR, and they both bang on about it all the time. Actually, they won't stop banging on about it, if I'm brutally honest.
I'm so happy with it.
But yeah.
Because Matt took me to the VR race lab when I was in New York, and that was pretty damn cool, to be honest. Because
It's very.
Can we do one of
pleasing.
those Patreon things where they can pay for me to get a PC? Patreons, who wants to help buy me a PC to forward my racing career? Come on, money for Van Gene.
no. I'll tell you what was the best part of it was I was just throwing a Lotus 98T around Long Beach for like half an hour. It was so much fun.
I forgot you got iRacing.
Yeah, it was fun.
Even you've got bloody iRacing.
No, he's
What,
talking
me?
about the VR center in New York.
No, yeah, I was talking about the VR.
Ah, okay.
Oh, can I tease?
I have
Can
for
I?
it,
Can
but
I?
don't-
Can I tease
can't,
a
like, play
North?
on it.
Shut up. Can I tease a North American Missed Apex event? What do you think about that? What do you think about that? How do you like them apples? How about a Q? How about a Q4? A quarter 4?
No.
Missed Apex.
Quarter 4 2020.
No, 2019.
I could get on board for that. Not next year. I got too much. I've already blagged myself a stag do for 2 days at the middle of next year that I got to somehow pay for that the wife ain't happy about. She's not here. I can say what I want.
Right, yeah, because you mentioned we might still be doing something in February, but I thought that was off.
No, no.
No,
What
no.
we're gonna. Well, here's the story. Right now that this isn't going out live. No, I'm still not going to give away the exact weekend we're looking for. But Matt is here on February the 23rd. Is the Saturday that you are.
I'm
here.
sticking that in my diary.
Right, are we not live anymore?
We are live, but I'm not. I'm still. I'm just. This won't go out in the final product. I'm just. But it is on the live stream. So
There's a cough cart round that day.
Matt-
Come carting.
Matt
Cough cart.
being
Dick.
here. Matt being here
Dick.
means that if the date was too soon, and it also just so happened that the three
Oh,
kart
there
tracks I was talking to, that date wasn't good, and they couldn't give us like a daytime one. It would have been fully into the evening, which is not great, really. I want to have a bit of a party afterwards.
Yeah.
However,
Agreed.
since Matt is here, certainly we can hook something up. Late afternoon, evening.
Come do cough cart. Cough cart is that day in Tamworth.
Yeah, but
Come do cough cart. By the way, the first race of the season actually isn't bollocks. I got that wrong. First race is at Wilton Mill because we moved it. We had to, we moved it. Yeah, because we got our dates wrong and clash with BRKC.
Whoops! Oh no!
There you go.
Oh, that's
Figured that
really
one out.
bad.
Figured that one out pretty last minute. It's like, we need to move this date. And the guy who, Mike Mooney, who runs us here, is like, no, it's all right. We don't get the same customers. Like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of our guys who are doing BRKC. We cannot run the event the same day. So we had to move it. So we're doing Wilton Mill on the 12th. And we are doing Daytona Tamworth on the 23rd of February. So come mix it all together.
So, do you want to do the 23rd of February or no?
Right, so I was making a point that everyone was interrupting. Wasn't
Sorry, I crashed. Sorry.
I? So we'll do something. I've got my show that I haven't been sacked yet until
On that day?
Yeah, I do every Saturday.
No,
Saturday, 12 till 2.
No. On the 23rd,
I even
you're
listened
doing
to one
something.
show.
Jeezy, shut up!
So yeah,
Are we doing something on the 23rd?
Oh, yeah, and one...
You need me on the 23rd.
we will do something. Matt has allocated that time to be available, and
I'm going to put it in my calendar as map thing ?
Yes, that would be perfect. I had my eye on sim racing actually, all in one venue all together
Right.
with a few
Right.
select listeners, and perhaps even like throwing that out into like an online arena as well, so people can either join us in person or join us online, etc. And then
February
record a podcast.
is a good month, but the only day I'm not free in February is the 16th.
It's not on the 16th, Chris.
No, I'm just that's fine then. And then the other,
Merkman says Jeansy sharp. Yeah.
so that's the. So
Hang
that's
on, you'd
just
rather
a
hear
live-
Chris than me. Jeez,
That's
there's
a
nothing
live
wrong with you.
recording. Everyone freaking loves me, dude. I was like on top mentions on Twitter during the Adderia E-Pre.
Well, that shows what's wrong with the world. I love you, Chris.
I'm so good at my job. So that's just like a live recording, potentially some sim thing.
Don't you sell shirts?
Ah,
I thought you sold shirts. Is that your job?
as a journalist,
Oh, right. Okay. You get money for that?
sometimes, sometimes.
Okay, good.
And then, what were we
Pocket money?
thinking for?
Half a crown.
Was it April? We were thinking.
Oh my God! Shut up. The date I said Q2. I'm not.
Oh, sorry,
I'm not
I
giving
didn't
away
re-
the date
Yeah,
because.
Steve Amy, cut this bit out.
Yeah, no. I'm
Well,
not
it's
giving.
just
I'm
getting
not.
cut out
I'm,
anyway.
I'm not.
It's not like I.
I'm not giving away the date or even the month because for the last two.
WTF, why don't nick it?
No, that's not the reason. It's another completely different reason. No.
WTF, why nick our dates?
Oh,
Ferrari
God.
nick our
I've got-
sponsors,
see-
nick our logo for their car.
See, I've got to now
Sky
finalise
nick our
all my.
news stories.
I've got to finalise that plan now tomorrow morning, first thing.
Okay, so I've still got it down as ? in my calendar.
Matt is here on the 23rd, and I would very much like to, even if it's not to do with Missed Apex, at the very least, I want to get me and my family to go and meet Matt's family and have some
Okay,
tea.
makes sense.
I want to bagsy you for after 3 p.m. on that
I have
Saturday.
down as ? in my thing as well.
Okay. You freaking
I know
Pay
that look,
attention.
Chris.
Jesus Christ.
I got done effed up.
The Missed Apex event has been cancelled.
Secret, you didn't tell me.
Yes, he did. He specifically said earlier in the podcast on the live show, "I'm not going to mention the date."
I thought that just meant on the show, not this bit.
We're still live.
Last time
What about other stuff?
Still live.
Last time I lost a venue, all I had done is mention the date on a tweet. I had mentioned the date on a tweet, gone, "Hey, would people be potentially around for such and such a date?" And then within days that it got nicked, you know. But by another, it was too close. It was too. It was like that is a huge coincidence. But you know, coincidences of course do happen, don't they? Of course they do.
Very well known for not coming up with original content.
Yeah. Oh, Erudite, this is by far the best F1 podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clearly, the hosts need to drink more. Do you want us to die? Do you think this is coffee? Do you think this is coffee? Oh my God, no! If we drink more,
Well, I've drunk 100% more than I normally drink on the show.
This is
Because I've had rum and my wife's homemade Baileys, which is unbelievable. A customer bought me a massive bottle of whiskey, and Lawrence turned it into Baileys. It's awesome.
How big is it? Is it as big as this?
Edgevid Anderson says
No, or massive catering sized bottle of whiskey.
Says,
Oh, like those proper,
Hang
like
on,
a
I'll find
pepper
it.
grinder in a restaurant.
Jeansy needs some proper earphones because I think he can't hear when we're talking. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go in a bit. Edgevid Anderson says 3 idiots sitting on a raft. Think he means you 3, not me.
I think he means the 3 people that are actually talking. Damn, that is a big ass bottle of whiskey.
1.5 litre bottle of whiskey.
My word.
Yeah.
What kind?
You
what
can
kind?
tell it's a catering one because you have to put it upside down to see the name properly.
Yeah, but that's a blend.
Oh,
That's
that's
a blend though, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't drink
Yeah, it's
whiskey.
rubbish.
That's why it's been turned into Bailey.
Nicola.
Whiskey, you drink Baileys. Are you a 60-year-old woman?
No, I like Baileys. Baileys is awesome.
My
But I drink rum. Rum's my drink, but that's quite nice.
All right, Captain
Rum's-
Jack
rum's-
Sparrow.
No, Cracker, not Captain.
I think we should go now and drink more
I'll
rum.
tell you what, this show has flown by for a show that I was not prepared for, had barely read the show notes for, and sat down for 10 minutes before we went on air. It's gone really well.
Okay, let me read out my editing notes to the Wafflecast. 6 minutes in, Alex breathing. Oh yeah, that was it. Because I went, Alex, have you got a point? And you went, clunk clunk. It was clunk clunk. Unmute, right? Clunk clunk. Then, hang on. Okay, so I've got that to edit out. 8, Alex's tech, where I had to tell him about all of that. 26, Alex non-commercial something something something. It's basically a note to look for Alex at around 26 minutes there.
It's when I didn't say anything because I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
what I was going to say.
You were sitting there, you were going,
And it would be that bad. It would be that bad, but then Chris did exactly the same thing.
Oh yeah, 33 minutes.
Sorry,
Chris
but you were
chokes.
talking way too long.
I've got Chris chokes. There we go.
Don't mind that.
And then I've got 54 review brain slug comment in case it's too harsh.
No, it's genius. Pure genius.
Brain slug.
And I've got
That
105.
must be on a
105.
I can't remember whose comment it was that he made me spit out my drink.
Hang
was
on.
funny. There's
105.
been a few of those moments.
This
today.
is Jeansy. 1 hour and 5 minutes. Cut out where Jeansy lists all the entrants of Covcut. Just like listing random people when obviously that's
Why?
not going in. There
They're
we
not
go.
random people.
Oh yeah,
They're,
16
there
minutes.
are valued listeners. I will tell them all in our text message group that you think they're all random people.
16 minutes in.
Fine.
Variability. No, variability. What did he say? I've got to listen.
Variability.
That was Chris. not me.
Maybe it's pronounced variability. I don't know.
Variability. I don't think that's
No,
a
you
word.
said variability, but it's
That's-
variability.
Yeah, that's it. Variability. That's what you said.
Variability,
Yeah, because
variability.
I've
it doesn't matter.
I've underlined
People
the
know what it
I
means.
in that. And then 21 minutes, I've said, when I said that Matt's American drone, is that too mean to Matt? So I consider you, just so you know. So I've highlighted to review that.
American?
There we go. Oh, and then when I said piss.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
There is. It could definitely
nothing
wrong
wrong
with
with
saying
you.
that.
You wouldn't say it on the radio, would you?
No, wouldn't
Yes.
say it on the radio.
Not on BBC One.
Moyles used to. Moyles is my yardstick.
Moyles isn't on BBC One.
He was on the Radio 1 breakfast show for 9 years. He used to say arse, bitchy.
Yeah, but
Got to think about bitchy.
and
He
Jeansy,
isn't
right?
like that anymore.
Your argument for everything is, oh, Chris Moyles did
That's
it.
all I've listened to for the last 15 years.
I am
when
a
I've been on the road.
local
I listen to
radio
all
DJ
day,
with a
every day, and
family
he's what I
friend.
listen to.
He was broadcasting to teens on Radio 1.
No, not when he was on Radio 1. It was guys my age.
Yeah, but he was broadcasting to
But
teens.
they're all sort of early 20s.
Not his
to
listeners.
Late 30s.
Not his
Yes,
listeners.
Very
No,
much.
they weren't.
Not
Late
Radio 1's
30s.
listenership has
Right.
changed
If you
now.
are in your late 30s and you're sat there listening to Radio 1,
No,
get a grip.
Radio 1 now is very different. I wouldn't go anywhere near Radio 1 now because it is all for 12-year-olds. Radio 1 has changed since
Are you
Miles.
kidding me? I hate Radio 1.
Yeah, you're weird though.
You're a nerd.
You got lots of problems.
You're a nerd who no one
Oh,
fancies.
really? Like what? Like
because
what, Jeansy?
girls
Come
don't
on.
make passes at
Huh?
boys who
Can't
wear
wait to hear
glasses.
Oh God, really? I haven't got time to list it now.
Oh, come on.
I'm
come
too
on.
busy. I'm too busy writing in our cart talk group that I gave Paddy, Ryan, and Stephen shout outs, and Spanners is cutting it from
Yeah,
the show.
tell them, cut. Irrelevant. Who are they? I've also noted to see if my comments about Scotland people in Corby is in any way racist. So I've got a note to say about that. Yeah,
I mean,
Christy.
look, this is a bit of a festive episode. We've let our hair down a little bit.
It still goes out the same as everybody else. There's still no room for casual racism.
So do you agree?
I
Do you
will
think
simply point out-
that on the Pogues track you can say? Can I say it here? I don't know if I can say
oh,
it.
you
here.
can say it now. Yeah, it's all right.
Can you on the Pogues track? Should it be allowed that they say cheap, lousy faggot? Should that be
No,
allowed?
no, that should never have been okay.
Because it got bleeped, and then the whole world exploded because it got bleeped, and then it got unbleeped, and it's been unbleeped ever since.
No,
Is
no,
that
it
faggot
shouldn't
as a
be in
word
there.
for gay, as in a derogatory term for a gay
I
person?
don't know the context.
Well, then
in
it
which
depends.
said,
If it
because
was-
I'm pretty certain that, as you can tell from I can't remember the guy's name who sings on that track. He's definitely drunk during that.
Does
during
that
stuff.
word have any other meaning other than a
Yeah, it's
derogatory term
it's
for
a
gay?
food.
You're thinking of haggis, mate.
No.
You cheap, lousy haggis.
Do I need to Google
Don't
faggot?
Google it.
He's not on a BBC
I've
computer.
googled
it's fine.
faggot food, and so far, yeah, it is a food. Yeah, it's a
Right,
traditional
but
dish.
he's not calling it you cheap, lousy food.
It's a
is
meat. It's a meatball. There you go.
Oh, you cheap, lousy meatball.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, that's the lyric. No, it shouldn't be
He
allowed in the
could-
song.
He could equally have meant meatball. Yeah, no, that's bad. No, yeah, I think Chris is genuinely
Rainbow
right.
Meatball Stroll Stephen.
Praise.
You
No,
just call me a meatball.
I called you a meatball.
go on, Matt. What was the point you were going to make
Wow, man.
before these idiots interrupted?
You want a dish? I'll dish.
There's no way
I
this
don't
can
know,
be a waffle cast.
I'm just chatting with the chat room now. No, I had a point about something or the other, but
Was
doesn't
it
matter
UK foodstuffs that could also be slurs for people of various sexual preferences?
now. No.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So no, what Chris Moyles does is not a standard for. It's just a really weird comparison. Hey, a '90s.
one of the best highly rated radio DJs.
Well, wait a minute.
of all
No.
time.
He went to popularity because compared to British DJs, he was essentially a shock jock. You know, and that
He hates that term though.
yeah, but that
because
is
he's
what
not.
he was. That is what
He's
he was.
not.
That
No,
compared
that's what everyone stereotyped him as, because he's not. He just talks about things that real people talk about, rather than coming up with.
he's a very rude man.
He's wonderful. He's hilarious, and I love him.
A very rude man.
Paddy said, "Boo." Never liked him anyway.
Is that Paddy, your karting friend?
One of our karting listeners. Thank
I
you
know,
very much.
I've met Paddy. I've touched Paddy in real life and been jealous of his
Yeah, he
Porsche.
told me about that. He's trying to get the lawsuit together.
You whack him
And
off
he's
in
got the money
check.
to do it.
Yeah. I like it when I get to touch people in real life. Oh wait, hang on a minute. I've got an edit. Right, go away. Everyone go away. Bye.
Well, you're not going to work in the morning. It's fine.
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve, mate. It's Christmas
I am.
Eve.
8 a.m.
I'm not. I've been off since Wednesday afternoon.
Bye, live stream. Bye. I am actually going. They
Oh,
wont
shut
stop
up. You're a
talking.
student. You've
They
been on
won't
most
stop
of your life.
talking, so
I'm
I'm
not a
just going to